Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leon Weinstein and today is May 1st, 2019. After multiple anti-Semitic outbursts by several House Democrats, after both Jews and Gentiles in the Democratic Party shielded open anti-Semites, not condemning them, but instead issuing a statement that to be anti-Semite and anti-Muslim and hate each other is no, not good. Something that members of Congress and general population of this country was supposed to know from the kindergarten. After all that, the season on Jews was widely open. The international edition of the New York Times published a poorly made caricature depicting a blind person and a dog on a leash. The blind person had Trump's face with a Jewish traditional yarmulke on his head, and the dog had the face of the Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. And for everyone to understand exactly what it is all about, this dog carried the Star of David on his leash. If you want to translate it into simple English, the New York Times just recently was depicting Trump as an anti-Semite, now was presenting him as a blind Jew led by the Jew dog Netanyahu. However, the Star of David wasn't yellow, as the one that Hitler, in Hitler's Germany, all Jews, including my relatives, were ordered to wear, but was yellow with blue, so it was totally different. Now I must make a disclaimer. I'm a Jew, and I have dual citizenship of the USA and Israel. I served in the Israeli army and I'm very proud of it. Now back to the subject. After Israelis began to raise their concerns, New York Times quickly took this caricature off their website and apologized. They wrote that depicting the Prime Minister of Israel as a guide dog with a Star of David collar leading the President of the United States, shown wearing a skull cap, was an error of judgment. Let's take a look at the process by which caricatures approved in major newspapers. I am sure that New York Times follows more or less the same guidelines. From that we can derive whose error in judgment it might be. First, someone had to create the caricature or spot it in another magazine or newspaper and bring to the appropriate department, thinking probably this is good one exactly on the spot, right? Usually an editorial group or the head of the department evaluate, discuss and approve or reject any material. If approved, the company censor looks at the drawing in order to decide if it offends anyone, God forbid, in the way the publication doesn't want to offend him, her, them. Then editor that works on the daily edition supposed to sign off on each and every page of the publication. This was already the third person that made the decision that caricature of blind Trump led by a Jew dog, to where the Jew dog wants probably Trump to go, is a good material for the newspaper and is in tune with the newspaper's views and policies. But this is not the end. The night editor, who is responsible for the last modifications, supposed to check everything again and again and sign off on every page again. He, she maybe, also didn't find in this caricature, Jew dog, etc. anything wrong, offending, not truth or different from the views of the New York Times organization. What it tells me that inside of the New York Times exists a culture of hatred, not only toward Trump, Netanyahu, Israel, but also toward Jews. If at least 4 or 5 members of the editorial board didn't find anything wrong with the caricature, then they apparently think that Trump is, in truth, being blind, led by Jewish dog with Netanyahu's face. They think that this is what is going on, that Jews lead blind Trump to whatever they Jews want. Looks like an ideal caricature for the times of pogroms in Russia and for the fascism in Germany. As a matter of fact, this caricature resembles me Nazi propaganda cartoon from 1940s that show a Jewish man on a leash leading British Prime Minister Winston Churchill around the globe. However, New York Times added that Jew is a dog. Nice touch. If the owners, managers of the New York Times would thought that their shareholders would suffer and that their subordinates did something really wrong, they would fire all who took part in this anti-Semitic action, would create a commission, probably whatever they would call it in their organization, to root anti-Semitism out and, think fast how to re-educate their workers. And also would put apology on the first page of the newspaper because it's a huge matter. However, they decided to do exactly what the leaders of the Congress did: apologize and shield. Shield all editors and other employees who think that anti-Semitism is okay and who's still working for the newspaper. Or 3 days after the apology, you would think they did all that I described? Tough luck. The great New York Times published another caricature of Netanyahu. This time he was depicted dressed as Moses, with the Ten Commandments stone in one hand and the phone in another, taking selfie. This one wasn't as anti-Semitic as the first one, reacted New York Times. But after pressure from the White House and Israel, they said that they will stop publishing cartoons until, and here is not very clear what shall happen next. New York Times already leaked to press that one and only one editor is to blame, but they are not divulging his name. So until they will decide whom to blame and fire, probably someone near his retirement age, we will not know anything. Looks like we're not going to know anything and nothing will change in the newspaper. At least until we continue buying it, supporting it. You think I'm a pessimist? Okay, I think I'm a realist, especially regarding combination of anti-Semitism, New York Times and Democratic Party of the United States. They proved me right more than once. Do you think if the dog would have had of the Iranian mullah with Obama wearing burqa blindly following him? Do you think the editors at New York Times would not spot a problem? Do you think it would go unpunished if somehow it would be published in the newspaper? You bet. Now I have a question. Did you hear about any Jewish uprising after Ilhan Omar from the Congress and other members of the Congress made their anti-Semitic remarks? I sure didn't. Did you see on your TV screens maybe Jews demonstrating at the Capitol Hill demanding not weak statement from the Congress but taking anti-Semites off the important committees, naming anti-Semites in the declaration? I missed it too. Did you see a statement, for example, by wealthy Jewish donors that unless them party will do something with anti-Semites in their ranks, there will be no Jewish money to any Democratic contenders in any race? I'm afraid the Jews, American Jews, value their causes much more than their citizenship in this country and their Jewish identity. Jewish socialists value socialism more than their ethnicity or upholding values of our homeland. Jewish feminists value their cause more than possible pogroms of their brethren, even pogroms of their own children and grandchildren. I think that American Jewish community is guilty in letting anti-Semitism being unpunished and are inviting anti-Semites to act every day more and more boldly. Do not forget also that Democrats demanding everyone to disarm. They dream about a society where no one has weapons except army, police and criminals. I have a feel that they fear for the lives of well-beings of burglars and thieves if, God forbid, those who protect their homes would have guns. All of the recent Democratic contenders in the presidential race saying that they will try to either modify or repeal the Second Amendment. But Senator from California, Kamala Harris, was forced to admit that she has a gun. It is very easy to explain, she said. I was a prosecutor, and many bad people hate me. So I had to get a gun too, now it comes, to protect myself. Great. Kamala can have a gun because her life is important to her. My life is important too. Your lives are important. Not only Black Lives Matter, Jewish lives and all lives of all human beings are important. Kamala and other important people can have guns or use bodyguards. We taxpayers pay for them. How about us, those that hired Kamala and others? Maybe we're not less important. Apparently not in the eyes of our democratic electives. The whole story more and more resembling the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics, the one where I have the fortune to escape from. And now a bit of history, if somebody forgot. In 1922, League of Nations gave British a mandate over the territories of Palestine and Transjordan, it was called at that time, both of which had been conceded by the Ottoman Empire following World War I. Brits were supposed to help to establish national home for Jewish people in Palestine, and a separate Arab Emirate has to be established in Transjordan. An important part of the mandate was until such time as they are able to stand alone, meaning the Jewish home and the Arab land. At that time, in the region they called Palestine, lived 752,000 people, including 84,000 Jews, 71,000 Christians, and 589,000 Arabs, Druzes, and Bedouins. British government was supposed to create in Palestine safe and welcoming atmosphere for Jews. They were to encourage Jewish immigration to Palestine and find land for them, uninhabited or government owned, to settle Jews, and ease process of getting Palestinian citizenship to Jews from around the world. If Great Britain would do what they promised, there will be no Holocaust. Now let's talk about Germany for a second. In 1938, at the Evian conference, Hitler offered to 38 countries present at the conference to accept German Jews. At the beginning, Nazis didn't want to exterminate Jews. They wanted to get rid of us. And send to Madagascar, to the United States, Kenya, Palestine, to the moon. Not one of the 38 countries agreed to accept Jews. Not one. Poland, Belgium, Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, France all stated that they already exceeded their quota for Jews. However, one country, namely Great Britain, was obligated by the mandate they initiated and signed to accept Jews. The Great and Mighty Britain, under Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, refused. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, famous Democrat and Nazi at heart, didn't like Jews as well. In his wife's diaries, you can find a nice entry. We will be no longer visiting this family. Their house stinks of Jews. And the leading US newspaper, you guessed it, New York Times, attempted not to show Americans the genocide of Jews by Hitler, and not to let their readers know about concentration camps, gas chambers, mass murders. They posted several stories at the inner pages of the paper, but failed to be objective journalists and conveyors of truth and human values. After the end of the war, at a press conference, the owner of the paper at that time, Arthur Sulzberger, a Jew, answered a question about, didn't you feel sorry for your brethren? He said that I am not a brethren to an uneducated Jewish shoemaker from Poland. I feel much closer to Baron such and such and Prime Minister such and such. Sorry for not exact quotation. I'm sure I am very close to what he said, but not verbally. Who knows, maybe he also thought that it's okay to murder 6 million Jews. Very possible. Obviously, what was important to him is that he himself, his business and his family would not suffer. Period. During 5 years, Great Britain allowed less than 75,000 Jews come and settle in Palestine. At the same time, they encouraged Jordanian Arabs to move and settle in what was supposed to be the Jewish national home. Germans, Brits, French, together with Roosevelt and Salzburger, have their hands in Jewish blood, up to the shoulders. Maybe what we see now is a comeback of the feelings the owners and their employees had toward Jews during the World War II. They were hiding this hatred for a while, but when leaders of the Democratic Party signaled that it is allowed, they got out of their rat holes. Dear Jewish brothers and sisters, again and again we stand alone. Look around. Look who is with us. 30 million evangelical Christians who believe that if God said Jews are his chosen people, then Jews are God's chosen people. He never said that it's temporary. He never took those words back. Evangelicals are our friends. I know many of them personally. They are our friends. We have another friend in the White House. Finally, he's helping us more than we could ask for. Thanks God. Trump is the head of the US foreign policy. Not Obama, not Clinton, not Biden, not Sanders. Pray for his health and well-being for the next 6 years of his presidency. Pray and vote for him. Not only because he's good for Israel and Jews, but because he is against the world's worst disease in the modern history, called socialism. The same socialisms that killed 100 million in China, 40 million in Europe, I would say 70 million in the Russian Empire, and many more millions in Romania, Cambodia, Vietnam, Cuba, and the like. Socialism brings stagnation, kills, deprives, murder minorities, murder those that desire freedom. This is our enemy, my Jewish and not Jewish brothers and sisters. Not the president who wants Americans and all who wish us well to live prosperous and save lives. And he is opposed to the boycott of Israeli goods and services. However, I shall say that those who participating, sponsoring and encouraging this boycott shall know that there will be many things they will not be able to use. If they will really, not for political reasons or out of pure hate for Jews participating in this despicable deed. If they would really want to stop using Israeli products, then they will not be able to use drugs against Parkinson and multiple sclerosis that were developed in Israel. They will need to dump all flash drives from their computers to the garbage. It's an Israeli invention. They will not be using the best GPS system in the world called Waze. They shall not buy food in supermarkets because the best irrigation systems were developed in Israel and most probably were used in growing the produce. God forbid to buy cherry tomatoes. They were created in Israel. Millions around the world are using the Israeli-made capsule with camera, allowing doctors to see what is going on in the patient's digestive tract. Anti-Semites demand not to use it for your diagnostics. Do not use Viber. Do not leave messages on any voicemail. Voicemail's programming was developed in Israel. There are new sniff phones that allow to detect on early stages many diseases, illnesses, including several forms of cancer. Do not use them. Die young, pretty please. Endopath, created in Israel, predicts that during next 7 years, if during next 7 years a patient is in danger of heart attack, go have heart attacks, you morons. Take off your computers all Intel premiums and Celeron processors. Stop using any Microsoft program, stop using Facebook, drop video on demand, and stop using any smartphones. They were developed at least in part by Israelis, or for simplicity. So you will understand. Jews who live in Israel. Especially for Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. For the wonderful three, you shall avoid using your phone. All of them operate on laser technology developed by Jews. If your families will have heart troubles, avoid using pacemakers. Again, Jews. Stand still, Jews. Cholera and bubonic plague vaccination, do not allow them to be done to your children. Beware, developed by Jews. Polio vaccine is a matter of fact as well. Google, couple of Jews. I suspect that all other internet search engines, also Jewish creation. Do not touch jeans, lipstick, ballpoint pens, contraceptives, instant coffee, television remote control, traffic lights. Please drive through, do not stop. They're all Jewish invention. I can continue, but listing all inventions that Jews created that changed the world and our lives is probably endless. I dare you, anti-Semites and liberal progressive socialists who boycott Israel and who didn't demand, and the ones who didn't demand immediate punishment to those who commit crimes against humanity by promoting anti-Semitism. I dare you stop using, as you yourself proclaimed many times, any Israeli products. And try to avoid anything created by Jews. It is contagious. But I know you. You're all words and hate. Ask mercy from God while you can, because if God exists, then we are His chosen people. Thank you, my friends, for listening. Do not sit on your hands, do something. It is called self-preservation. Act. We are not German Jews of 1930s. Progressive socialist Joseph Stalin disarmed Soviet citizens. National Socialist Adolf Hitler disarmed German citizens. In Venezuela, their liberal and progressive socialist government also disarmed citizenry. You know the results. I'm heading for a store to add guns and ammunition. And if someone thinks that Jews will give up our weapons, they are really stupid. We all know 6 million Jews without weapons. Holocaust. 6 million Jews with weapons. Israel. Can you imagine that United Nations order Israel to surrender their weapons and tells them that United Nations will defend them from Arabs? You want my weapons? Come and take them. Thank you. Goodbye.